Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of By the Numbers. I'm Richard Lewis in spirit, not body. I am dying.
What's happened? Like year or something?
Wow, just
got something to announce, bud.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's gonna be the last By the Numbers for a while until they find a suitable replacement because I am stone cold dead. No, I've just been sick, haven't I? I've been fucking on death's door, man, since that Fortnite event. I don't know what happened, but somewhere between Chris Puckett hosing me down with fucking dry ice and the children doing the fucking loser dance, I appear to have caught some sort of disease.
That's the one part I definitely enjoy about your new job is that the way that like every other part seems like it's good, but you have just inserted yourself into the Fortnite world. Like it's like everything. I just think of you doing that dab meme where you're like, oh god, like that's what I think.
Mate, you forget. I already got wrecked. I already got wrecked by E-League with the dab thing because people don't realize how that went down. People honestly thought I legitimately did a dab, right? Even though the picture of me, I look so like miserable as I'm doing.
$10. You can use it in the chat. Mate.
That was like the lowest moment in esports for you.
No, it was like, and I've been to rock bottom. I've been on the couches, you know. I've been on the
but that's the problem. Now you were like, yeah, but not anymore. I promise, never again. Never again. One last time for the
one last dance. No, it's pretty bad, right? But anyway, yeah, basically, like fucking, what they did was they said, "Oh, listen, we want to do a bit with the crowd and we want to get them hyped up." And we've had like a few of the crowd members be like, "Oh, you know, like." Wouldn't it be cool if Richard Lewis did a dab? And I'm just like, come on, man. I'm like saying to the producer, I'm going, who the fuck wants that? What? They're going, listen, the floor managers told us they
it's
want
the
you to do
idea,
it
right? Because obviously, as a studio setup, it's free to come in, you know, so there's no reason for everyone to complain. It's the idea they distribute comment cards. Like, what would you like to improve E-League? And then just like, Richard Lewis should do a dab on camera. Right.
Yeah. So I was like, look, because it was off air. I was like, all right, I'll try and get the crowd hyped up. So I'm like, they're behind me, you know, turn around and talking to them and stuff. And then I get it right. Right, they're gonna do the fidget spinners, do the dab, right? So I'm like, okay,
wait, we're all gonna dab. Spinners.
Yeah, we'd given them all fucking E-League themed fidget spinners. I've got some up there on the shelf still. Right, so
social
and that was
media
the job.
hype.
Yeah, it was right, and they just went like, oh, you know, it's not on air, but we're gonna come in from a live shot, so get them all to dab. So I do my like sad old man dab, right? Like, but here's the thing: they'd sent the photographer out who took all the fucking shots, and he's gone snap and got me.
So it wasn't actually on stream, right?
No, they didn't go out on stream, but he's caught me. He's caught me in the fucking picture, right? Like, and then he sent it to the social media department, and they've tweeted it out 100 times. They've got me doing spinning dabs, fucking, you know, fluorescent dabs. Yeah. dabbing back and forth super fast with like an animation. They've absolutely fucking wrecked me. You know what I mean? And they were tweeting that out for weeks.
So
and I
was
like,
the harsh part, isn't it? Is that you only ever dabbed once that evidence exists of, but you have now virtually dabbed so much that you are just a cunt, basically.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, but it got really weird because like while the social media guys, Leo and that were fucking tweeting this out, I was getting messages from fans going, just unsubscribe to you. I can't believe you did it. It's like, I'm not making it up. I'm not making it up. Yeah, lost all respect. Like, lost all respect. Like, seriously, it was a big deal to some people. They were like, going, how can I ever take you serious as a journalist again?
They're not wrong.
Now that you've done a dab. No, I mean, they've got a point in many ways. Like, I'm just as upset by the whole thing as they are. But
to be fair, though, it could be worse. Like that, you know, when everyone always makes that comment, it's a great perspective on life of like, if you'd had social media in past times of history, obviously it'd be a lot less cool, a lot less respected, you know. Like obviously it would you'd just die inside if you saw like fucking Hunter S. Thompson on like Late Night with Jimmy Fallon, like dabbing and shit. You'd just be like, you wouldn't in a way, Richard, sort of be like, you know what, I used to think you were the coolest guy ever, but I've gone off you now. Actually, I've lost all respect.
So you know, it's that was a rough one. Anyway, we're introducing a fucking Counter-Strike show. By the way, if you thought that fucking filler episode was fucking bad, even less news has occurred in the interim. So like, We better be talking about dabbing for another 40 minutes by my estimation, Duncan. Anyway, it is by the numbers. I am your host, Richard Lewis. That's Duncan Thorin Shield. Sam's having a chuckle in the background. And of course, it's sponsored by Rivalry.gg. You can go to rivalry.gg/RLS or /DAB. No, it doesn't exist. That's not real. But maybe it is after this. And you can qualify for up to $350 of bonuses. And our other sponsor, Gillette Razors. No, let's not.
You know, the mad thing is, Richard.
Let's not.
That entire premise, though, is
right.
basically like the people who always wreck you. When they're
this,
like,
Rich.
you know, when they're always like, but why did you let Thorin say all that? It's like, what control did I have? I can't just like stop time like fucking Thanos or something. Like, stop. Thorin.
Yeah, that's my job. Everyone expects me to fucking stop time before you go crazy. I'm like, about that advert, Richard. It's like, I've got to go quick. Snap.
Adam Sandler presses remote control.
You do realise our entire editorial process for this show just revolves around how far did Duncan go on the show and which bits do we take out?
And then just jump cuts.
Yeah, and then it just
what, Rich? And on to Sprout.
Yeah, exactly.
Just random jumps to
you know what, Rich? Fnatic are bloody good, aren't they?
Now, hear me out when I say this. That flush... Anyway.
Oh, no, we leave all the stuff about flush.
I actually did put the dub of a Riot employee last time. Just went,
I saw that, actually. Someone linked me to it. You know when I did a joke where I said, like, because I said Riot employee, I said, oh, quick, dub me in saying Riot employee. And then Sam actually did dub in me just going, Riot employee over.
Riot employee.
We've got editing now.
Pretty good. Yeah, no, we're really
the next
doing
step,
it.
Obviously, is one day if this podcast is big enough to have like proper backing behind it, not just all
lovely people,
just putting in your fucking
hard-earned money.
I'm on about real money.
Please make a note of this.
I've already had one person drop out because they don't like Patreon.
Anyway,
yeah.
So all I'm saying is one day when there's like proper backing behind this, we'll just have some sort of voice actor who's close enough to my voice to dub in all the extra scenes in it. Like, anyway, I think that makes him an unnice person, just like some shit like that, you know.
Well, yeah, it's funny you should say that, actually. You know, obviously I work for a production company and that. Well, they were saying that, like, I need to have a talk with you about maybe getting you out here to film some pilots for, like, some esports show.
Majors Club, no Majors Club.
Oh, well, no, not so much
that.
But, like, the... what's it called? Fucking
to find out about all the chemtrails.
Like, yeah, definitely that. Yeah, they want to start a new thing. It's called InfoWars, but for esports.
But with a British guy.
yeah, it's really good. No, they one of the things they were thinking about is what's that show that Stephen A. Smith does? Is it Pardon the Interruption or Around the Horn or First Take or something? I don't know.
Which one do you mean? Because he does like First
all
Take,
of them.
The one he
probably.
used to do with Skip. But Pardon the Interruption is a good concept. Pardon the Interruption is like what me and Stunner did when we did that one. What was it called? I can't remember the name now. The one where me and Stunner and
have to argue your points,
where it's like the whole concept is, you know, only one of you can have each answer. So, for example, if the question is like, who's the best CSGO player in the world? If Moses gets given simple, then I have to argue device. But the concept is, you know, if I argue device properly, I could win still.
Because I remember you made up that mad fucking story about how Santa Claus represented the Flyer Garrick.
And wrecked Moses with it, by the way. It was the last question.
Yeah, no, but like obviously that's just gonna blow little fucking Momo's mind.
He sat there like, and then the best thing, think about this, Richard. The question at the end, and by the way, the whole premise as well of how we did that show is it doesn't really matter who's right as well. They purposely keep the score close so it's fun, right? So it always comes down to the last question. It's never like no one wins by 4. So they made the last question because it was a Christmas episode. They made it, is Santa real? And so obviously the joke there is you're just both trying to say no, first of all, like you see, you get to win. So Moses goes no, and I go, right, well. And what happens is whoever goes like that, the other person has to answer first, right? So I go, well, and so then the best thing is after I give that like flawless, I don't even pause doing it. I'm just reeling off information about like Santa Claus and fucking Northeastern European shamanism. And at the end of it all, Moses is just like, it's like, and what about you, Moses? Why is Santa Claus not real? He's just like, what can he even say at that point? He's got nothing, has he? Like, it's just empty, and it's over, you've lost. Because Stunner even says at the end of my point, I don't even know if any of that's true, but I'm just gonna have to assume it is. I don't like you win.
So hey, look, right, someone sent me just how ridiculous this whole dabbing thing just got on Twitter right now. So coming back to the dabbing thing, just to show you how I couldn't escape the fucking how bad is this? Have a look at this fucking tweet here that they fucking did. Can you bring it up, Sam?
Yeah.
And play it.
It's the amount of them though.
No, that's what I mean. They've got like, what am I riding? Is it a camel or chickens? It's chickens, isn't it? Why am I riding a chicken doing a fucking dab? Like,
Why is your gun an arm? You've got an arm gun or something. I mean, it's not the most reasonable fucking statue they've given you there, mate.
No, I know as well. The worst part is, I seem to do remember there was a group of people in human history that had a very similar arm movement to that, right? Which,
I know.
maybe don't do that to me as well. Like, don't put that on the fucking internet, E-League. Like, thanks for that, mate.
So they want to do a show like that, basically. Because it's a good concept. Though. If you have the people,
right. So
sick,
what the guys in charge of the marketing, was like, listen, we got to film some pilots for some shows and throw them out to some broadcasters, and they wanted to do like a show where basically whatever that show will fucking skip, and Stephen is, they want me and you to do that. So that would basically be like real backing for this, probably, except we'd be talking about all of esports or whatever. So
fair enough. But this way, if you could get that show so it was like well produced, it was on the internet, just the shit alone when we would address like and not just news about Ninja, it's like there'd be some great segments. I'm just going to tell you that.
Oh yeah. The only story
could never be live streamed.
Could never be live. A lot of editing.
Yeah, a lot of editing involved. But yeah, it would. The only story I want to talk about relating to Ninja is whether or not that Ninja Goes Sicko Mode video is real or not. That's all I care about, mate. And you don't even get that reference. All the chat do, of course. Clue up, eh? Anyway, let's you want to talk about some? See, the chat know what I'm talking about. You want to talk about some Counter-Strike news?
Yeah. What happened? Nothing.
Well,
give us anything this week.
It's pretty bad. All right, let's just start with what we said we were going to do on the last episode of the podcast. We were going to dole out some mad cunt points to a certain organization because MIBR, they only went and did it, mate, after all of the fucking tweets about how nothing had been decided and it fucking wasn't really, nothing's been decided. Don't believe journalists, all of this shit. And then, all the fucking stupid joke tweets. I hear Argentina players are good. Like, this fucking all this nonsense. I don't know why I can't talk. And then, of course, they just rolled out Phelps, who'd been announced, weeks before, in advance. Everybody knew it was... It is the most underwhelming player reveal, probably, in the history of fucking CSGO. So, yeah, I mean... Can we just say that MIB are all cunts now? Is that a reasonable assessment?
Like it, doesn't it? Especially because what's funny is, right, when this... I saw that Lurpus got annoyed by, it's not just us, other people had mentioned, why are you mentioning that? I know that player. Yeah. And then he basically, I think, missed the point because he was saying, obviously we're going to mention it. It's news. It hasn't been officially confirmed. It's that's not really what we're arguing against, though, is it? We're not arguing against the concept of officially confirming it. We're arguing against the most weak-willed, lackluster fucking promotion I've ever seen, which was 2 shit tweets from people who could have done much better. Not least because if you actually wanted to promote it, there's so many clever ways you could have dropped hints or done something fun where the fans could guess. There's so many cool things you can do. And then if you're going to promo it, you're getting a fucking legendary lineup at it. Well, at least the team that did some good shit, promote that.
No, but it was the thing that I noticed. Didn't one of them tweet out no rush banana, referring to that fucking...
I think Phelps himself did it, yeah.
Yeah, referring to that disastrous Phelps and Fur push on that game in that series, right? Well, why don't you get your players, and I don't know, have your social media guy, just film a little joke around a banana or something, you know what I mean? I just thought, they did really handle it. The thing that I just find egregious is, you're fighting and arguing about, it's not been decided, no deal's been done. It's fuck me. How many times is this going to happen where, just let the leaks occur? If any of you were smart, you would be getting out to the journalists before and saying to the journalists, hey, listen, we got this player coming in. I'm sure you're going to hear about it through your sources. We'd like to do an official announcement. Is there any way we can work with you towards that goal and still get you some unique content that's going to get you the clicks that you crave? Problem solved. Everybody eats. What is the problem? Why is this so hard for organizations to figure out? Cloud9 do it. It's not even like there's not precedent currently in esports. It's always the same nonsense. So, I mean, I know we talked about it a little bit. You're happy with the return of Phelps? You feeling good about this new MIBR lineup?
Yeah, I think if you look at the circumstances, unless they were gonna again double down and go for like a get simple if he wants to leave Navi type crazy move, which obviously there's good reason as to why they would be put off that by bringing in NA players. It's tough to figure out who you can get from Brazil. I mean, it basically is Kianji or Phelps. Like, they're the obvious picks that immediately you could see being a really great pickup. So in a world where you're not getting them, I think it's a good pickup personally. Like, the key thing for me is I think like both parties, due to what has happened to them since then, where neither team has enjoyed success. I mean, I know obviously MIBR, when they were the old team, briefly won those tournaments with Bolts, but it didn't last that long. It was only a few months, before they went to shit. So I feel like it's one of those scenarios, a bit like Zeus rejoining, where in the meantime, you've gone through experiences that have changed how you think of the other guys. And it is really that scenario where, like, there's times you're with someone and you have a lot of problems, and then you're like, oh, these problems aren't worth it. And then you go to someone fucking worse, it's even worse. And you go, right, actually, I'd rather have dealt with those problems. Like, let's fix that problem, actually, rather than have to have a lot of other issues. So the good thing about Phelps, obviously, we know he's a sick player. He's got a lot of talent in the game. I do think from the stories I'd heard, perhaps he came into the team and got a big head from winning and maybe wasn't as sort of adaptable, which you clearly need to be in Fallen's teams, otherwise you're going to get kicked. Like, here's the thing. I didn't disagree with the kicks either, but I just think that, like, the cycle's complete now. It's time to bring him back and do it right.
Well, sometimes it does work out that it's better the second time around, right? Like couples who fucking get divorced and then they end up remarrying again. They realize it wasn't quite as bad as what they thought. And I think, like, look, all the pieces were there. That lineup with Phelps in it should have banged. It should have done better. They had some major deficiencies that they never really addressed. I think now that they've kind of played with, like, this Stewie and Tarek lineup, and it didn't work out, and Phelps will definitely not want to go back to the fucking wilderness. Any fucking ego he's had,
exactly, yeah,
will have been fucking. I mean, it's over now, because it's not like it's last chance saloon for a player as talented as that, but it's definitely better to be in the fucking fold than out of it. So I think this will be a much more cohesive go around this time. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they're still going to be world beaters, or I would tip this to be the team that was going to topple Astralis, or hey, they might not even win a tournament in 2019. Who knows? But it is certainly going to be an improvement on the American lineup that we saw.
Absolutely.
Pretty certain about
especially that. Because of that angle. That, like, it's like what's funny is it just shows how perspective really changes how you think of something. Because, like, as much as I always thought, that the old core was like so clutch and always great, but you realize just how incredible it was when you see them with really good players like an MIBR, where they don't have any of that, when it's just not in their DNA whatsoever. And yet, 3 of the players are the same players. It really actually shows you how radically even 1 or 2 players added to your team can shift everything, the whole identity of the team, playing style, strengths. So the other angle as well that makes me excited about this one is some people, I think, have forgotten that the key thing was when they had Phelps, that was when there was no Zeus. He was already gone. He was off in Team Liquid by then. So that's also something that could potentially make it work better this time around, because as I've seen myself, like, one of the areas that Zeus's strength seems to be in is like being like a bigger brother type figure. Like, as far as I can tell, that's what they used to use him for. When people like Cold Zero would get annoyed with someone else, or Fur's not practicing enough for people, it's like he's the guy where if he's the one who comes to you and he has a one-on-one relationship with everyone, you can get a lot more solved there than you can by either like Fallen having to do it, and that shouldn't be his job. He's just a game leader. It doesn't have to. He's not a sports psychologist as well. Or sometimes this is one of the flaws I notice people have in teams. A lot of people think that, like, the best way to solve a problem is let's all sit in a circle and call each other out. Like, you did this wrong. And it's like, that works for some things. And some teams that might respond to that. Some people are going to respond terribly to that. They're going to feel attacked and they're not going to see what they actually, sometimes you got to have someone who's like, his job almost is to make these connections that by default aren't going to exist between certain people who just don't get along, see the game differently.
I thought there was another bit of news as well that was kind of weird, and I thought, again, just like I don't want to say this because I I've always got on with Noah face to face.
What's he done?
Person. Well, I saw Taco tweet out that MIBR was going to miss the DreamHack Open Rio because of their schedule.
Oh, right, yes.
And he apologized to Brazilian fans because of that. And it just seems to me that, like, whatever your schedule is, that has to, like, okay.
At least if you're going to call it made in Brazil.
This is what I mean. Right? This is what I mean. So you do that big announcement of the team, and it's made in Brazil, and you've got a legendary Brazil lineup, but you put Americans in it, and then you have been linked as well with Ukrainian players prior to the American lineup, so it's all a bit weird. You finally get your all Brazil lineup back on track. You finally get a player like Taco back in who's going to bang in MIBR. And Liquid are going to miss him hugely. You know, it's all there. And then you've got this Brazil event, the DreamHack Open Rio. I mean, look, even if the prize money was less, it can't be about nickels and dimes. Like, you are meant to be the Brazilian team. I mean, effectively, you are the Brazilian national team.
Mate, even just going to do the fan signings and to bring attention to the event, and even, by the way, help the fucking event, make it more likely DreamHack hosts another event there. If you agree to go every year, they might hold it next year as a stop as well. There's a lot of reasons to why, you could help yourself and the scene. I'm with you on that one, yeah.
Yeah, it seems a strange event to miss out. Now, I don't know enough about what this tight schedule entails or why they have to miss the event, so maybe I am being a little bit harsh. I'll be willing to acknowledge that. But it just seems to me like a no-brainer that Made in Brazil should be going to a Brazil event. Even if it's like a fucking layup, you know, and all the teams there are suck ass and, you know, you're going to beat them. Just seems to me like a complete no-brainer, but I don't know. It's a bit weird. But look, 2019.
And why is Rio Ferdinand not even going? Shit joke, whatever, keep going. Keep going. Leave that in. Leave that in.
Like, the thing is, well, mate, like, you're good with your jokes, you're quick-witted and all that, but you really have to update your references. Like, you're still living in that 90s world, like, and that bloody young Leeds footballer, Rio Ferdinand. You go, like, you know, like, when he's fucking retired now. You know what I mean?
It's true. It is true.
You gotta just update the references a little bit. So there was some other news that we can tangentially link because it also involves Brazilians. Won't be anything that surprises anybody, I don't think. But
KNG sentenced to 15 years in prison. And then the thing was, he just wouldn't prove it, said the defendant on the stand. And also, I'd just like to say, while I accept this guilty plea bargain, I apologize for nothing. Was that the news by any chance? Was that it?
Oh, don't, man. I'm sick. Oh, fuck. Yeah, no, it wasn't that, man. It wasn't. But yeah, I'm glad I don't ever have to represent him because, of course, he doesn't commit crimes. That was all just a joke.
He didn't do nothing.
Yeah. Right. Get me out, Sam. The simulation's capsizing, man. I can't do it. Right. There it is. You know, things get really bad when the Ghost Rider fucking laugh comes out. It's bad, mate. It's bad. Right, anyway. So, no, it was about Henny and Lucas.
Oh,
right? Yeah, are probably going to be leaving Luminosity according to a report by Draft 5. And again, we're going to retread some old ground here. I feel like this is going to be like a By the Numbers Greatest Hits album because we're going to be talking once again about two talented players on the fucking move, can't settle down. I mean, the Luminosity lineup, do you remember how we just said, right? It feels like 2 episodes ago. Oh, I think finally Luminosity have got a lineup here where, you know, okay, they've got Neckes, and he's a little bit of an unknown quantity, but Bolt, Steele, Lucas, Henny, we're almost getting the old Immortals team back together. I think Luminosity could have a big 2019. What the fuck are these cunts leaving for? What are they doing? Like, what's out there for Henny and Lucas? Like, am I missing something? Is there like an NA team that's going to pick them up and pay them top dollar?
That's the most bizarre part, right? Because, like, even for the sake of the meme, you would think the logic would be, right, you play professional Counter-Strike during the autumn and the winter. When fucking summer's coming around, right, now's when you take your time off, you go on your party, you do whatever else you want to do. Like, as you say there, what's the options? Like, as far as I can tell, surely it's going back to Brazil. Like, there's no other teams available, right?
Well, but I just don't get it. There's not even a Brazilian lineup that you would want to play for, right? Now, to be fair, as a follow-up to this, Henny did say the story wasn't true, and he wanted to play CS 24/7, whatever the fuck that means, as if that somehow precludes you from leaving this team. Seems like a very vague statement. But equally as well, I mean, I don't know. I'm always inclined to believe the reports when I see stuff like this over
That
the
one's
players.
the kind that's weird though. Like it's one thing if because here's the thing: when a team or an organization has a report done, obviously one of the reasons even why some of them can sort of get away with going that's a lie is because like maybe they just don't know. I can acknowledge that might be them not understanding that concept that it is real, mate. You just don't know about it in your part of the org. Like for example, maybe the deal hasn't even been vaguely initially agreed upon, therefore there is no contract. As I've pointed out a million times to some of the morons from Scandinavia who tell me that a deal was never happening, when like the players themselves are telling me. But the one that's bizarre to me is like this, where there's a report about Henny and Lucas, and then Henny himself is denied. Well, where did the information come from? Like either they're lying or the journalist is lying. Like that's actually a pretty open and shut case. Like someone's lying. So I'm afraid I'm with you on that one. I don't take, okay, I'll just say it this way. I don't take pro players' statements in public as what they actually think. I think that it's a mixture of this. It might be some of what I think, but more importantly, it serves a purpose. Like, for example, when he says that, it's the effect that he's having on the people. It's not about whether he actually believes it or not. It's what does he want his fans to think? So, for example, I'll give you a great example of how it could be. This is a pure speculation, okay? That's not what I would actually say in this case, but I'll give you an example. What you would do is this. Henny goes to his org and he says to them, actually, thinking of just leaving the team, actually, not really liking the direction we're going in. Now, pick any reason you want to insert there. Maybe we aren't going to enough tournaments. We're going to too many tournaments. Maybe I don't want this player in the team. Maybe I do want this player in the team. Whatever the reason is, you can think of a reason that he might say that. And then he then goes to his mate and goes, yeah, you might want to report this. I'm actually thinking of leaving the team. That comes out publicly. Oh, the Luminosity guy, what do you think he's doing? Speed dial. Henny, what's going on? What's this report I'm hearing that you're actually going to leave? Like, you're really going to do it? Like, listen, I'll see what I can do about that player or that thing or whatever it is. Like, it's like the old Hiko story from a few years back. It's possible that everyone could be, I mean, that's it. So not telling the truth of the lie, but you know what I mean? Everyone knows what's going on, and we are the dupes here because we are the ones they want to convince to do something. We're not actually just people on the outside watching and spectating. We're an active part. We just don't know it. We're being used against someone,
Yeah, I'll also add as well. I mean, in terms of this Brazilian website Draft 5, I don't know it. I don't even think there's a byline attached to the report.
Love that. Always I'm a fan of just websites up there. I wasn't actually aware that website. I didn't know actually like the BBC's website could write an article. I thought like humans had to, but maybe AI is that advanced now,
Yeah, it's like you look at the article and it's like it just says for writing underneath. It's like okay. So I mean, I will say that I couldn't vouch for the veracity of this, but equally I do know that's certainly the average esports reporter, at least, although this doesn't hold true in other areas of journalism. They generally tend to double check, triple check, and before they publish stuff, because if you get one story wrong, that's the kiss of death in the esports industry, at least. Whereas, of course, you can be wrong time and time again in mainstream gaming journalism, and that's just considered par for the course. So I don't know, but it would seem strange to me because, as I said, I think finally, Luminosity was starting to get a lineup together that I felt could be competitive on an international level. And similarly, in the same way I've talked about, like 2019 has to be the rallying point for Brazilian Counter-Strike if it's ever going to get back on its feet. You've all had that crazy year in 2018 where you've all tried to play with other people. It hasn't worked. Really, really good players, major winners have been playing in lineups that, frankly, it's an embarrassment they were ever there. You've had the emergence of new talent as well coming through. Not just K&G, but that kid whose fucking name I can't remember. That nearly, that's it. Yeah, K Serato. There's now enough players out there to build two really good teams. And you've now all got the attitude adjustment you probably all needed because you've had a terrible year of Counter-Strike. So it felt to me that, actually, maybe Luminosity and MIBR could start putting Brazilian Counter-Strike back on the map, and we could have two teams back in the top 10, and maybe, two teams potentially in the top 5, top 6. So if Henny and Lucas leave, I almost feel that starts the fucking cycle of misery all over again.
Oh, of course, especially because if they go to another team, they'll do the same shit they did here. They'll just get two other players kicked out. Because remember, it's a lot easier to bring one player in and out. Most teams have one player they'd consider kicking. If you're getting two, you're probably kicking a player you didn't need to, like Luminosity did. Then those players are just going to come and join this Luminosity or some other team. It's just going to be some shit cycle of players where it's like just devastation in the wake of Henny and Lucas, you know. I will say, by the way, I've always rated Fall as in-game leader, clearly one of the greats. But I used to wonder when it was 2017, because at that point in time, he'd tried out all the players who were good in Immortals. He'd either like kept them or tossed them to one side. And Immortals basically had just become like recycling the same players and trying to make it work. And they were never going to break through to where SK was. I used to wonder, right, is part of the problem that Fallen has sort of hoarded all the star players? Like he's got fucking Coldzera and he's got Fur. Now he's got Phelps. He's got himself. Like how many, you know, these, you could make 2 teams out of that. You could make 2 pretty good fucking teams with half of them. So I used to wonder, right, if you put them aside in the 2 teams, would the others be able to compete with them? Well, to be fair, as bad as MIBR was, look at the amount of really good players who've been in teams like MIBR who are in these other squads, like the FNX and KNG one and the Phelps ones. These teams are fucking dire. Like, they're really terrible. Yeah. It really does show that even though the scene has grown up, Fallen is still like the godfather of that scene. Like, he clearly still has massive influence over people, like including things that are basic, like what role are you going to play in the game? You know, there's too many players out there, it seems, in their scene that just, they don't seem to have a sense for what their competitive identity should be. It's like, right, we're all just sick players play. It's like that. You don't win doing that in the modern day, mate.
You just put your Reflections, is it out with Fallen? Is it Reflections or
yes.
Is it Reflections?
It's part one of along one with him, yeah.
Yeah, so those who maybe don't know, I'm sure most people watching this podcast do. Duncan has a series called Reflections, which is literally a look at a player's career. Duncan goes and researches like key points, key moments, key events. Tries to ask questions that maybe weren't asked at the time, you know, solve mysteries that, you know, have kind of been lingering in there for a few years and get a definitive statement about it. And it's also a retrospective of, you know, the truly great contributors to competitive esports. So I was very, you know, I mean, like, well, I probably shouldn't be surprised that eventually Fallen acquiesced, but I wanted to pick your brains about it since there's fuck all else to talk about. It's a good time for it. Obviously, you and Fallen, he'd famously declined interviews with you in the past, right? And more than once. So how did the bridge building process begin? So you ended up with this piece of content.
Well, one thing people don't know is like he is one of the only people where I've ever actually publicly acknowledged that they turned me down for an interview. Because as I've said to you many times, I personally think that unless the person's really done wrong to you or something, like ultimately you are being granted, even as much as a player gets exposure and they get to be part of a great interview, you also benefit massively as the interviewer.
Oh, of course.
To me, I've always considered it gracious of any player or individual who does an interview with me. So as a result, in line with that, if a player says, I do not want to do an interview, then that's the end of it. I just say, okay. I don't then go out and go, well, like I know some interviewers in the scenes who do this. When someone goes like, oh, will you be getting this famous player I like? You go, well, he wouldn't do one. Because the problem with that is, even if you don't intend it to mean that, first of all, you are just sort of muddying that player's name a bit, because for all they know, behind the scenes, maybe you're an arsehole to that guy, but now it just seems like he won't do an interview for the fans or whatever. And then on top of that, you're also, in a weird way, potentially putting pressure on that guy to do an interview he doesn't want to do, because now his fans might go, but he said you wouldn't do the, you know, like, so normally I don't do that. The only reason I revealed publicly that Fallen had said no is because when I was doing one of these like AMAs, I forget if it was a Patreon or like back when I used to be sponsored by Boomio and I used to do one, I just remember saying it in there because it was something like someone said, who would you love to interview who you've never interviewed? And so for similar reasons, I said, there's some people I can't say, but it's just because they've turned me down, but I don't want to like grass them up basically. Now, to be fair, you can obviously figure out some of them just by if they're super legendary players and they didn't do them. So there is that, but I can't be in control of that. But I did say, but I'll say that I don't think that I will ever be able to get one with Fallen just because it seems pretty clear from his attitude and obviously our, at the time, incredibly acrimonious relationship between Brazilians and me, that it's just not going to happen. So the reason I said it there was exactly the opposite. It wasn't to make people go and pester Fallen. It was to make people like, just don't ask about it anymore. Like, guys, this one's just off the table. But the key thing is, I will say, it's actually more in line with Fallen's personality than probably his own fans would realize. Because for many years, that's what all of the Brazilian fans used to always just try and spam me with, like, haha, you know that you will never get interviews with Fallen and Coldzera because they despise you. It's like, I mean, I was just talking to them the other day at a fucking event that you don't know about. But okay, continue telling me, because no one knows more about the entire pro scene, Rich, than people who just sit at home and exclusively watch streams and interviews. Yeah. We all know that. They know everything about the scene and believe every press release for that matter. Well, what happened is, Look, whenever someone turns me down, but I think it would legit be a good interview. Like, I'm not just asking for the sake of like, oh, this guy's a big player and I'm a big interviewer. No, I think we could get a really good interview. What I'll do is maybe 8 months later, maybe a year later, or maybe if the moment seems right, I'll say to them again, hey, you know what? I think we could do a great interview. Are you up for it? If they say no again, okay, similar thing. Wait another year, wait a little bit. And what you'll find is, I won't like be sarcastic and say you break them in the end, but it's more like in the end, people just think to themselves like, actually, maybe this is the time. It's like you give them enough opportunity to say no. Eventually, one time they think, you know what, yeah, whatever. And so it was a similar thing with Fallen. He just thought like, he basically, as far as I can tell, came to the same conclusion. That is the reason I now have a lot of professional relationships with people who, on a personal basis, I probably don't get along with, and maybe to this day don't even like. Which is, people eventually figure out that it's not like just doing an interview with any random website. Since I have my own profile in the community, what makes you mad is the same thing that could help you, which is you get mad when I make a video that doesn't feature anyone except me, and maybe I speculate on your team or I criticize you, and you think, oh, I'm so sick of this. You know, he spreads false narratives or he's so critical of us. Well, you know, the best way to make it so that the content I create for the fan base isn't in that manner is to be part of it. If you're part of an interview, you can tell me, if you know what, I didn't like the way you said that, or, you know, I want to take you to task on this, I disagree with that, or just put out your own version of the story.
I think that's the rule in
a lot more sense, right?
Yeah, and I think that's a rule in general that people don't really understand, like when you're making content like this and doing interviews and stuff, is that I think a lot of people naturally shrink away from confrontation. Well, you know, people like you and me, we've done very robust interviews with people who actually hate our fucking guts. And to be honest, I've done interviews with people who I absolutely have zero fucking time for as humans or contributors to the esports space. But, you know, we can keep it civil enough that we can get to the end of an interview and it serves a dual purpose, as you say, which is, you know, gets their version out to my audience, which they're obviously aggrieved about. They feel they've been misrepresented, and I get the benefit of having had a more thorough exploration of the topics that I'm discussing. So, you know, it really is win-win. I've always
would also even say, mate, like, even if it's someone you don't like, because part of doing interviews like that is they get to explain all their thinking and their reasoning. Even when it's someone you hate, you often find out, like, I still think he's an arsehole, but actually there was a reason I didn't know as to why he thought that. Or, you know what, he explained himself better there than if I'd been myself a distant observer just judging him, you know, with no inside info. Sometimes it even helps you in that sense, that you get a better appreciation of the person or some understanding, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of a good example of one I did. I want to say... yeah, I did an interview with, what's his name? Is it Jakob Lund Christensen? Is that the chap who formed
Copenhagen Wolves?
The guy behind Copenhagen Wolves, is that it?
Yeah. No,
he
not
works
him.
For Refresh. Who are you meaning?
No, God, fuck, what was his name? The guy who fucking did the Experience LAN. Sorry, not you.
I don't know, because that's going to be a source guy, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, anyway, there was this guy, and like he'd ran this LAN, and someone's gonna give me his name in a second, Danish dude. But anyway, so he'd ran this LAN, and there was like, you know, he'd not paid some fucking money out, you know, usual fucking story, and he'd been saying that, you know, it wasn't his fault and everything else. And I met him at a Danish LAN, and I was like, listen, he was like sort of looking over at me nervously. I was like, do you want to do an interview and like talk about it? Because, you know, the money's been like 2 years outstanding or whatever. And we did this interview. And I'm asking him super aggressive questions and like saying like how his explanations aren't up to par. And you can see the sweat patches under his arms in the fucking shirt he's wearing get bigger over the course of this 12-13 minute interview. But I thought it was important to do it because you get to a point where you spend all this time like cunting people off and saying that they're bad. It's like that Nicola Nyholm guy from Fresh. I'd sit down and do an interview with him, even though he's done some things I consider beyond the pale. And I think it would probably make good content, and I'd probably have a renewed understanding of his perspective,
exactly.
him of mine. You know, like these types of conversations can never not be fruitful. I think you've got to be very, very vitriolic towards the subject that you're engaging with to really, you know, come out of an interview when nothing has been achieved. You know.
Sure. So, like, I actually thought, like, fair play to Fallen for that. Like, at least you understand the way the game is played. Same as with Reginald before him and ESL and all these people, they all understand that you don't have, it's not like you have to go the other way and you're all mates now and you love each other. No, but at times limited cooperation will benefit both people, clearly.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I haven't had time to watch it yet. I mean, I'm going to be in bed after this, so I'm going to...
Discord just made a noise that sounded like a dog barking, by the way, mate, if you're wondering where the chat is.
You sure it wasn't just me?
What, did you go... Did you hiccup or something?
No.
Oh,
I'm
right.
just... thought DMX, mate.
You sound like a dog or something, mate.
I'm turning into DMX.
Scared the shit out of me.
Get on Discord, guys. Right, okay. So here's an interesting story. You remember how a while ago we were talking about, what Taz and Neo should do and what their future should hold. And obviously, Neo certainly didn't. He didn't watch that episode because he carried on playing and kind of went down with the Titanic that was Virtus Pro. Meanwhile, Taz went across to Team Kingwin, carried on playing as well, but with a much more successful outcome. Well, news is coming in from a Polish website, basically saying that Team Kingwin has shut down, and Taz and the former founder of Team Kingwin are going to make their own organization, I would assume with Taz having some sort of equity or ownership within that new organization. Now, he is going to continue playing. I think they're going to keep the same lineup. But basically, it's going to be a whole new organization with Taz playing a more prominent role. So I was a little bit surprised to sort of see the end of Team Kingwin. But actually, thinking about it, it kind of makes more sense because I don't know what Kingwin are doing as a business these days. But I kind of feel
it's been downhill if you think about it. Because if you remember when they first came in 2015, was when me and you, they used to be on every fucking event, would be an advert for them. And, obviously they were sponsoring teams. They had a team. There was a million ways that they were all over the place. I feel like every year they've gotten less and less relevant. And the only reason I even hear about them last year, is because Taz was in them. That's it. That was all they had going for them.
Well, it's a bad time as well in general for these kind of wholesaler of CD keys. We've seen Well, I mean,
they have to be so close to just getting wrecked by lawsuits, right?
Oh, well, it's listen. I mean, the amount of times that I've seen like developers come out and say like, one of these kind of wholesalers are selling scammed keys that were obtained like by people posing as YouTubers. Like for example, let's say, PewDiePie's email is like PewDiePie, at fucking Gmail, right? And then what they do is they sign up as PewDiePie at Hotmail, and the person sees it, assumes that it's PewDiePie. It's a terrible example, but you know what I'm saying. And then gives him the 100 keys or whatever for a giveaway, and then that person's like, and then fucking sells them on third-party sites and stuff. And that's been a staple of G2A have been called out for that. Then there's just in general, I think there's all the kind of business practices that kind of go on in terms of like keys and how many are made available by developers and all of that stuff. So, I mean, Kingwin, I'll be honest, I don't think I've ever heard anything directly dodgy about Kingwin, but it's like you say, I think that type of business is having a very hard time in kind of the modern gaming marketplace.
I would just say this, put it this way, it would be very unlikely that they were able to just, as a competitive company, maintain the same business model without the dodgy stuff that all the other ones are doing if they're all doing dodgy stuff. Like if the other ones are cutting corners, how are you going to beat them in business? Like I know that doesn't mean that they were doing something, but it just makes it seem likely, more than likely than not.
And look, I say I haven't heard anything bad about Kingwin. Obviously, I've seen like the duplicate keys get sent out.
Sure.
And people say it's a scam and stuff like that. Lots of people saying it's not legit. And they don't do refunds and they don't have great customer service, which also seems to be a typical thing for a lot of these companies. But in general, I think Kingwin is certainly the lesser of two evils if you compare them to G2A. And their presence seems to be fairly fucking ubiquitous in gaming and esports. So, but I also think as well, there's no way that it was value for money for them to be constantly pumping money into having a less and less high-profile team in CS:GO, which is one of the more expensive esports to be involved in. Like, as a return of investment, I think it's pretty bad. So, I think moving away. Plus, as well, there's also talk, that certain leagues, they don't want teams to be named by businesses that could conflict with sponsors. So that kind of model is starting to die in the esports marketplace. Like, for example, if I want to be Team Red Bull and then I go and play in a tournament that's sponsored by Monster, I'm pretty sure Monster don't want Team Red Bull at that tournament, quite frankly. And if it's an invite-only tournament, corporate market forces are probably going to dictate you don't get to play at that one. So I think that's also part of a growing trend we're starting to see with the commercialization of esports in general. But what I am intrigued about is Taz finally doing what I always kind of hoped he would do. Yeah. And that is step up towards ownership, management, mentoring. Because, I mean, this guy, and I've said it a million times, like, no matter what you think about this guy, he loves the fucking game, bags of personality. He's super fucking serious about everything he tries his hand at. He wants to be excellent at all of it. And I've said that this is a character I could see, on a broadcast desk bringing so much to it. I think I even talked to him about it one time when I was working at E-League about the potential of getting him on a desk for a desk segment, and typically he kind of downplayed whether or not he'd want to do it. But I think this is a guy like if he ever retired and then just left the scene entirely, it would be a great loss. So him getting his due and having some equity in an organization, I think is a great move for him, and I'm super happy about it.
That actually does remind me of a very weird character. I wouldn't even say a flaw, just an idiosyncrasy that Taz has as a person, which is that he does only have two modes. He either is like, we're the best, we'll win everything. How could you ever predict we'd lose? What the fuck? Like, dude, he's the sort of guy who used to get mad at me back in the day when I would predict like VP to lose to like Fnatic, and then they would lose to Fnatic, and he'd be mad that happened. It's like, but anyway, it's only that, or it goes the other way. Like the other way would be he'll say something like, "Oh, I would come on the desk here with you, Thorin, but I don't want to get wrecked by the units." Like, as if you believe that. Come on, man. Obviously, we'd have fun, wouldn't we? Like, like that's a nice thing to say, but there's no way it's true, is it? Come on, like,
mate. I've told you, I've never seen anything like it. I have never seen anything like the time when Hastro came to that Gfinity event we worked, me, you, and Scoots, the first Gfinity's Angel event, and Hastro introduced himself and said he wanted a CS:GO team. It was before he picked up the CS:GO team, and he said his number one pick was the Polish guys. And I was like, well, I can introduce you. I can make that happen. No problem. And we were in that bar, that little weird casino bar. And we introduced them. And Hastro was giving his spiel and saying, this is what Envious can do for you. It's this massive Call of Duty brand. And, I don't know how receptive the rest of the guys were, because obviously Taz was taking the lead and being the talker, and he was literally saying, that all sounds great and everything, but you don't want to pick us up. We're all retarded or something. Like, it was ridiculous. I was like watching it, and I was like, how is this happening? And that was literally those were his exact words. Those were his exact words, and it stayed with me, like, because it was like, you're talking yourself out of a megabuck sponsorship here. And he was like going, sometimes we fight. We're a very complicated team to manage. Like he was constantly giving the counter argument as to why Envious shouldn't be picking them up.
Maybe he'd had some sort of a liar type scenario happen earlier that day. And he was like, I don't want to we're fucking brilliant at fighting and doing all bad stuff that we should have been. What have I fucking done?
Yeah, it was really, really strange. And he tried to talk himself out.
Movie from the mid-90s.
90s, of course, yeah.
Put it again.
Yeah. We'll get you there. We'll update you.
Someone needs to give me like a sheet with like my reference, a reference more recently, and then a reference that actually kids now might know,
But so in the end, after that meeting, I think Hastro was a little bit like nonplussed, and that was when he kind of shifted, and like, the French guys were his second pick, but they rapidly became the first after that meeting. But it's like you say, I mean, Taz does alternate between two modes, like supremely confident or very self-deprecating, and it's what makes him such an interesting personality, right? Because when you catch him on the days when he's down, he's always very honest and very forthright, and doesn't pull any punches, even when he's talking about himself. But on the days where he's like really upbeat, you can see him being a great hype man and really talking up your chances. And I think he definitely has proven that with what he's achieved with
That's
Kingwin.
the key thing as well. Like you've touched on it there as well. It's not neither of them are fake. Like neither's an affectation. I know a lot of people, by the way, who are really cocky, and then they think their version of being a good guy is to just lie and be like, "No, of course I'm not the best." And you can just see that they know they're lying. Right? With Taz, it really is. He's both people. And so, as of, like, for example, when he cut those E-League segments, do you remember the promo we had? Yeah. I think it was like season 1 or season 2. It was where he was saying, like, I want to prove to these guys, like he was talking about, the fanatics of the world. I want to prove to these guys that we're the most skilled team or something. And at the time, you're going like, well, listen, you might be able to beat them, or you might be able to, win the tournament. Well, there's no way you're going to be more skilled than off. In that moment, when he's in he believes that shit. He really does.
Oh, fuck yeah. Yeah, he really does.
Which is pretty gangster to say. Like, I thought it was baller when I saw those.
Nah, he was. Yeah, I mean, like I say, I think if you think about esports as wrestling, like Taz would just be cutting some of the best fucking promos like nonstop. Like you would be giving him like at least Intercontinental belt, right? Like he's that kind of guy. He's fucking he's so good at what he does. So I think as well we're getting to that stage in all of our development. Where we're going to see more. I've talked about this for a while. We are going to start moving towards the old school player-owned organizations now. I think it's going to be really interesting. I wish they'd got in a little bit sooner, because the VC investment's starting to take.
They could already be millionaires now if they'd have known 3 years to do this, basically. And a lot of them could have. Like, there's some very obvious examples. Like I mean, another great example I would give you, by the way, would be, here's the difference, right? Taz is such a huge name, it might not be a problem for him. But I'll give you an example of someone who missed the boat, is someone like a Freiburg. Freiburg had a great rep in the game, was still a big figure, had all those memes attached to him. If he could have known 2 years ago, that would have been the ideal time for him to do it. He could even be on the same level of team now, but he'd own part of it. What a great gig that would be, right?
Yeah, and you're absolutely
Markov,
right.
Same shit, there's a few more it's obvious for, right?
Yeah, and like I say, now that the investment is starting to taper off because all the companies that have come before, it's not dying out or anything. The bubble hasn't burst or whatever. Things people might want to say using hyperbole, but like the amount of VC investment has definitely slowed down. You're going to see that continue throughout the first half of 2019 because people are starting to wait and see what happens. Are any of these investments going to pay off? You've had a lot of organizations have huge cash injections. Well, what are they going to build with that? What are they going to do with that? You've got the Overwatch League, which unfortunately, as diabolical a premise as it is, as far as I'm concerned, it does bleed into everything else because, you've got all these high profile people engaged in it. You've got, you did a video about it recently about all these huge media conglomerates starting to buy up things like leagues and coverage websites.
Plus, people haven't thought it through. Like, this is one of the reasons I actually told people this. I told a lot of for example, I told the other casters and all the other players, like, actually just the LCS being franchised and the Overwatch League launching will actually, believe it or not, give us more opportunity because what I told them is this: anyone who thinks, right, that the teams who get into the franchise system of LCS or Overwatch League are like breaking the bank to get the money. No, the whole point is they go with a pitch to the VC people and tell them, right, I need this much money and it's going to get me in the league and this is what you get for it. And I'm not exaggerating. People who are like the top orgs, the ones who are the best ones, you can imagine some of the ones we're talking about from the LCS, etc. They told me, no joke, I could get a 5 or a 10 million buy-in to every league that does that. Like, if there's 5 leagues have these franchises, I'll get that money. Like, there's people out there who want in. So logically, it's the same thing. If you're someone who really believes esports is going to be this huge thing, the big games now are where you want to be, well, then you don't want only an Overwatch League slot. You're like, right, well, let's get an Overwatch League slot. Let's get a League of Legends one. Let's get the CSGO team. And then let's see which one survives. And that's the one we're going to ride. So actually, yeah, you're right. The bleed over is going to be obvious.
Yeah, and that's what I'm worried about because, I feel like a lot of the people in the Overwatch League, owners-wise, they're not being honest in public. And the reason for that makes sense. It's not that they're liars. It's that they have to be very selective with the truth and avoid talking about any negative aspects to being an Overwatch franchise owner, because you actually do need their entire model needs that next tier of investment to come in. And if it doesn't, now they've got real problems that they couldn't have anticipated. And trust me, I've said it before. like on the day it happens, and I believe it will happen, and I believe it'll happen in the next 18 months. On the day the Overwatch League sort of collapses in on itself or downsizes or whatever you want to call it, I'll probably dance a little merry jig and throw some fucking tweets out there
Maybe
at
do a
some
real
people. Yeah.
That would be the most
happy
epic
dab.
way to celebrate the death of the Overwatch League is you actually dab, unironically. and
Smiling.
literally-
Yeah, in front of fucking Nate Nancer, right? But when I've had some time to think about it, I'll probably be pouring one out because it does have this unbelievable knock-on effect. I mean, first and foremost, all the talent that's involved with it, right? All the great
course,
broadcast
yeah.
talent. Where do they go? What happens to them?
That's why I've
You know.
always loved the cunts telling me that I want the Overwatch League to fill. Like some of my best
Yeah.
friends are in the
I
fucking
know,
business and
yeah.
have signed like multi-year contracts and jeopardized their careers in every other esports game. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's a tough one, right? And then on
Even
top
with
of that,
even with all the cunts that would get to succeed, I'd still choose for it to succeed if I could, even just for the sake of esports.
yeah, it would, I'd be choking on my own vomit as I was doing it. Like, but fuck it, yeah, you're right. It probably is better for the broader context if it does succeed. Again, I still do not believe it will. And then the problem you've got with that is, well, all of those people, once bitten, twice shy again, right? Like they're not coming
Yes.
back. They're not coming back. That was like a 20 million bust. You know, it's not.
Especially
it's
because
not-
people
not
won't
what you
get
want.
this. Right, a subtlety that people might miss as to why the Overwatch League was able to get this far and continue is that actually the very clever thing that Blizzard did is, first of all, remember, Overwatch as a game competitively began when it was technically in beta. It was in closed beta at
Yeah.
the time. It was not actually launched as a game. A very clever trick that they learned from Valve with Dota 2, actually, is that when you launch the esport like that, you can't properly be judged on the first period of the esport while it's growing. Yet the esports industry will treat it as if it is just a launched esport. So here's the key thing. They made it sound to these people who they were selling the league to that you're getting in on literally the ground floor. We're going to wipe the deck clean for this Overwatch League thing, and we're starting at zero, right? That might sound to a fan like, well, why would I want that? I'd want to be part of the established esport like League of Legends. No. They think that they're getting in on the ground floor of the big thing, and we're going to go all the way up with it. It's actually the cleverest move they did. So the sad part about that and the knock-on effect is, if it dies, you'd think you could sell them on the idea like, well, listen, if you just invest a bit less and go into League, I can actually promise you these numbers, and it's got this like kind of like exposure around the world. No, instead they'll be like, yeah, but where's the big gamble? Like I was coming in to start to go for they don't want the safe thing. That's actually that's not a bug of the Overwatch League. That's a feature. It really is.
Yeah. No, well, and it's probably the biggest feature. It's like you say, these people are literally looking at this as an investment, not a living,
and you're going for a home run.
Organization. Oh yeah, swinging for the fences on that one. Think about it. It's 20 million. I mean, how you think about how much revenue you have to generate to see a return on this on the projected 3 to 5 years. It has to be hugely successful, and it's already had very modest returns. I think that's probably as nice a way I can say it. But what I am worried about overall is in something that's less appealing to invest in, like a Counter-Strike.
Yes.
I mean, right now we're getting the benefit of the esports boom, like the third golden age of esports. If any component kind of dies out right now, if anything kind of goes bust, if anything craps out, it certainly makes everybody view every other facet of esports through that lens. And that's a big problem.
Cough,
for
Infinite
us.
Esports or whatever.
Well,
Infinite Entertainment, I believe, was the name of the company.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but and again, I mean, there's a prime example of like, they thought they had it all figured out, right? I mean, here's the other thing as well. This is why I always laugh when I see Mark Cuban fucking talking about esports as if he's some fucking expert on it. And people giving him credit as if he's an expert on it. That would literally be like me going into an investment banking meeting and saying, this is what's going to happen in the next 20 years. I have a layman's understanding of economics, and this is what's going. I'd be laughed out the room. Of course, Mark Cuban says, "Yeah, we've got a massive burnout problem in esports." All right, then, yeah. Here's my mate Taz, still competing at 30 years old. He's burnt out, and he's only been competing longer than you fucking. Well, definitely a lot longer than you even know what the fuck esports is. You're not qualified. What you need to start talking about is, why do certain games have burnout? You can't make any. It's the other thing as well. I mean, people who like try and make generalizations about esports holistically. That's like me trying to say, well, if an NFL player gets CTE, we really need to do something about CTE in fucking baseball. Yeah, you know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense,
Sure.
right? But but that's how these people, these supposed new wave of experts talk all the time. They don't understand compartmentalization and how it's all interwoven. And you can talk about certain things in generalities, and other things it's very specific. Anyway. Getting back to the point, yeah, I think Taz is going to be one of those, like, probably a little bit of a pioneer. If it's a legitimate thing, if it's because we all know that the refresh thing was bunkum, and the idea of a player-owned organization was, no, you've got some shares basically, and you can sell those shares if we sell. That's what it was. It was never owned or driven by the players. Anyone who tells you differently is lying to you.
That was why the biggest red flag on that whole thing was the idea that they would attack journalists who questioned it. It's like, if it was legit, if it was all legit, why would you need to come out and tell us we're all liars? Like, just shows. Yeah. I mean, you know what could have, the most obvious thing they could have done from day one, Richard, is if that was really true, okay, cross out the names, but just show us that all the shares are owned by the players. Problem solved. Yeah. We are idiots. We look like stupid idiots forever, and no one will ever take anything we say as credible. Instead, of course, when everyone actually did look at the financial documents, it showed exactly what you said.
To that point, we can.
It is a good concept, though. Yeah, what a brilliant idea, and a real player-owned dog. And I don't mean like Hastro owning a dog. Like, yeah, he's not really like, we're not talking about that type of player, obviously. We mean someone who he's like at the end of your active career, or when you just retire, you take on a business partner who brings the funding, you bring the name and the value. Basically, what Heaton did with Nip when they brought Nip back again. And so I definitely think it's definitely worth it for the player, because obviously the equity could be worth a lot in the future. And it also gives them a reason to stay involved in the game, stay around the game. I also think an unexpected side benefit, because if you notice, right, esports orgs actually are the worst in all of, like, if you consider how traditional sports work, right, they love to do things where it's like, right, it's 20 years since this player won the Super Bowl with this team, and he's back at the stadium, and all the fans, cheering, and we're going to put his rafter up, his jersey in the rafter, or, some of them have their own little Hall of Fame, like you're in the Ring of Honor or whatever the fuck. Like, the reason esports orgs do not have those is because the amount of resentment and bad blood for former legends for their teams is so insane. Most of them have no interest in working with them, and they don't. As a result, you can't even honor your own heritage. Like, you can't have these things, and so unfortunately, I think even that would be a great benefit. If I had an org that had a guy associated with me in that way, I've got like a legit ambassador that I can keep going back to. I can keep using them as the face of the brand. What a great marketing tool.
Oh, of course. Well, to that point, then, it kind of leads us on to something else that was in the news. And I was a little bit surprised to see this, but we all know Freddie Biskov. I've known Freddie for years. To you guys out there on watching, that's the guy who founded Astralis, was famously the Danish manager back when they were in TSM. He's been around Danish esports for a long time. Been involved in Counter-Strike since the start, back in 1999. Well, he announced that he has resigned as director of operations at the Blast Pro series and is now looking for something new to do. And I was like, wow, this has kind of fucking come out of left field, because, Freddie he just is the identity of that company. I mean, he was the guy that first of all created the Astralis brand that got the investment from the group that would go on to sort of become Refresh. He established those business relationships. He then was instrumental in putting together the Blast and executing their vision for events, while simultaneously still working with Astralis and ensuring, that their success. And so my understanding is that he is now literally, completely separated from all things to do with Refresh, and is going to be looking for a new gig. And he even tweeted out his own position, or rather an offshoot of his position, because he did many jobs, saying apply his. So I was a bit surprised to see that, and I have no idea what he would do next, because to think of him outside of Danish esports and away from those players and away from this company is It's crazy to me. What I will say is, I have a suspicion that he's took one look at all of the shares and value he's accumulated and thought, I've been grinding since '99. Time to cash out. And I think he has, and I think he's cashed out in a big way, and I'm super happy for him. But I was still surprised to see him go.
My analogy I always give on that is the people I made fun of were the ones who spent 10 years going, I'm in this bloody thing for life. $1 million, you can have a whole fucking org and everything, but a rock, stock, and barrel. It's like, those are the people I made fun of because they were so ridiculously transparently just money hungry cunts, right?
Yeah.
But I'll never make fun, for example, of someone who came with an org that was worth nothing and then someone offers them like fucking 80 million and they take it. No, actually, you might have cashed out at the right time there, Matt. Like, you're the guy who cashed out, or you bought the Bitcoin when it was $10 and cashed out when it was 5,000. And some idiot goes, you know, it would have gone higher. Yeah, but you didn't know when to cash out, did you? That's the point. There's plenty of people let it go to the top and then went back down with it, didn't they? Like, if you go to whatever amount that is, like a ridiculous X on it. Like,
all buying Bitcoin now, of course.
I know, innit? That's about the best you can do, innit?
No, it's crapping out. Yeah, now's the time to buy.
Have you noticed now? There are people where there's never a bad time to buy, essentially.
Oh, no,
it's genius, isn't it? It's like, when would there ever be one? You know? Yeah. No, but here's the thing. In his particular case, like, for anyone who doesn't know who this guy is, there basically wouldn't be Astralis without this guy, because almost certainly they would have just taken, they'd probably be Optic Gaming right now, if I had to guess. Like, I remember if the offers that were out back then, you know, they'd be someone like Optic would basically be the team that Astralis would be playing for now instead. So, like, the interesting detail here was I noticed in his tweets, he said something along the lines of like that he was like taking a chance and, you know, he was like throwing the ball up in the air or some analogy like that. So he made it sound like he wanted to do something totally different, because if he hadn't have said that, my personal assumption would have been a bit cynical, which is that he's going to go and do it again. Like, what he's figured out is, well, this blueprint works actually. Why don't I just go and get a different team, convince them to make an org, sell that to a massive person. This time I can even do a better job. Maybe I get a higher percent. Like, it actually would be a very clever business model in the current setup. But if he really wants to try something different, fair play. He has done a number of different jobs for a few years now. Not sure what he would do, though. That's the part where I'm always confused, because there definitely are lots of opportunities for. The interesting thing about where esports is at the moment is it's not really actually about your skill set in esports at the moment. Like, if you are just someone who generally has been in esports for a long time and seems competent, people will hire you for things you've never done at the moment. Like, the actual opportunities are really interesting and quite wild in that sense. You know, that's why I think you will see in the coming years people like commentators leave and go get a completely different job, or someone who worked as a manager go and be some production guy. You know, like, at this point in time, knowing esports is actually more important than having the skill set to do that job.
Oh yeah, just understanding the lay of the land. Yeah, fuck yeah. I mean, think about my trajectory. You know, I've gone from being a fucking journalist to a host to a TV host, now working sort of behind the scenes in a production company, you know, and this is all predicated on, you know, just being around. I mean, before I went full time in journalism, I've been a manager, a coach, you know, I created my own organization, you know, so I've done a bit of everything.
The obvious joke that all the haters would say there, Richard, is, I went from journalist to Breitbart writer.
I should have said it, shouldn't I? Yeah, but here's the thing. But it works as well. I went from journalist to Daily Dot to Breitbart to back to
I thought, you know what, might give that fucking journalism thing a go again.
Yeah, exactly.
You never know what you've got lost till what you've got till you lost it.
Yeah, so... But yeah, you know, like I think Freddie's like someone that could definitely do anything. I will say this: if he's thinking of that, he's got the blueprint figured out. I think he needs to realize that he had fucking lightning in a bottle with that Danish lineup. You don't replicate the success of Astralis anywhere else ever again, do you? I mean, and think about how well, you know, the bond they all had, right? Not just the players, but with him. I mean, obviously the famous story about him is that when TSM didn't want him to be managing the CS team for whatever fucking inexplicable reason, the players all had a whip round and basically docked their own pay so they could pay to have him at the events with them. They felt that strongly about it. So there's certainly not a lot of teams that would do that for their managers, you know? So yeah, it's interesting.
No, I do feel like if the FaZe manager came to Nico and he goes, listen, Nico, you're not going to believe this, mate. They won't pay my salary anymore. He'd go, oh, I'm going to miss you.
Yeah, exactly. Gonna miss you. Now don't interrupt this fucking game, man.
Now, if you mind, pass me yours. This is how you do it.
But anyway, so yeah, definitely. I'm interested to see where he ends up next. That phrase also applies to Tarek.
What is this segue on? Yeah,
that was good.
You did it like it was like this morning or something, and a nice and a lovely day for all.
I told you
that'll be having a lovely day.
Because I work in television, I think in those terms now, mate. I'm a broadcaster, right? But I mean, having a segue in a show that is just literally a load of shit thrown together because there's nothing happening. You should be impressed with that. You should be singing my praises, going, he's bloody good, he is. He's bloody good. He's no red eye, but he's good. So that's what you should be saying.
That is the mantra that we all must say.
Yeah, we all say that. We all say that in the industry. He's good. He's no red eye.
Even if you're at someone's funeral and you go, he was the best man I ever, you'll just hear someone go, and you go, oh, sorry, Paul. He was one of the best men I ever knew in this industry. The Godfather. He is the Godfather. You've got to give it up, right?
He is, mate. He is the Godfather.
He goes, hey, you made me a bloody offer I couldn't refuse.
Your impersonation of him is so wank. Like, it's so far off.
I don't claim to be able to do it. I just keep trying.
Like, mate, if he was Chris Rea, like, it would work, mate. There's another great reference. That's even worse than a 90s reference. Yeah. But
I mean, he was big
to
in
Hell.
the 80s.
Yeah, Road to Hell, classic song. He was from
near
where we used to live. He used to live in Middlesbrough.
I think he was maybe from South Shields, that sort of area.
Yeah, no, but like apparently, Road to Hell.
Kind of wearing one of you.
No, yeah, this is no joke. Apparently, the Road to Hell is about the year 19 or something as he's coming into Teesside. I'm pretty sure he said that in an interview. So just putting that out there for any Chris Rea fans.
That's like that thing, though, that piece of trivia that just ruins everything again. You know that piece of trivia about Ridley Scott, that part of where he took the inspiration.
Yeah, the Blade Runner thing is from the ICI plan.
Yeah. Except the problem is everyone else is going, oh my God, he's a visionary. How did he think of that futuristic sort of dystopia?
No, it's like, Middlesbrough's just like that.
Come with me. Right, there you go. Pay this £1 for the bus. That's right. Get on the Arriva. Where are we going now? Follow me. Oh my God, it's Blade Runner. What is this? Some sort of theme park? No, it's just a fucking old chemical plant, mate. Like,
yeah. No, the best thing about
the illusion's been shattered.
The best thing about that ICI plant with the flames shooting up into the fucking sky is that if you look at the hill that's on the opposite side, it's just all black on one side.
Oh, do you want to know what?
All the grass is just
I'll tell you a mad
side.
detail. This is a great example of how you have to approach things when you live in late stage capitalism dystopia. Right? Yeah. One of the things I used to always tell people is, this is true, the sunsets in Teesside are actually beautiful, mate. Like, they're so orange. And that is purely because of all the chemicals in the sky. It's not an exaggeration. Like, they refract like the light through it. So it looks fucking amazing. It looks like you're in Hawaii or something. You're not. You're just living in like a fucking bubble of smog, aren't you? Like,
yeah. No, but we, one of my mates got when Newcastle played Middlesbrough again, way back when life was good, back in the 90s or whatever it was. My mate got arrested because the running joke is obviously we call people from Middlesbrough Smoggies. Yeah, the fucking Smoggies. Mackham's from Sunderland, Geordie's from Newcastle, Smoggies from Middlesbrough, right? So he went to the game and like loads of people have done this down the years. You go in a hazmat suit. Right? Because, it's Middlesbrough, it's too toxic to go. So you go in a hazmat suit and you fucking Smoggies, like, you fucking Smoggies. And I think Middlesbrough have just had enough of that. And, like, he just got arrested to go into the ground. Going, no, you can't come in like that. This is an outrage. When you're bloody fucking Smoggies, like, man, you're fucking daft cunt, when you're fucking dear, like. You know what I mean? It was Vince, of course. Vince.
I'm just retired, like what you said.
I'm gonna have to fucking come back now, like you cunt, yeah. And anyway, yeah.
I love the way though Vince is actually like playing the card now of like, when did I say I retired? Like he's trying to play it like that. He's doing it with D-Man, isn't he? Bloody Reddit's taking everything I said verbatim and therefore completely out of context. Like, whatever, now, just keep playing that card, mate.
I think tricasts for finals are the future. Actually, what say you, Bardolph? So, So anyway, yeah, Middlesbrough's a shithole. We all knew that. But
trios are where it's at. 2 heads are better than one. Nico, I can confirm that.
Right.
And anyway,
no, I did a great fucking segue.
You're in the
right?
team anyway.
I did a great fucking.
See,
Good,
yeah,
cheers, mate. I did a great segue.
That's why he's
ruined
become
it.
this ridiculous. He's just become this absolute monster. It's like, put it this way. If
you have turned Nico into Caligula for some reason. I don't get it.
Like, put it this way.
It's never that bad.
This is one of those examples of where if the player came up to you at an event in a bar and was like, why are you doing all that? You would go, nah, there's bang out for like, but then if he did just say also to me, so we agree you're going to stop then.
Here's the thing. I have got off the leash a little bit because I know I'm never going to events again.
Right, I see.
Right, but it's like obviously I have had that conversation before, like where a player will come up to you, and, like, because obviously out of me and you, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this. I'm considered the nice one.
Yeah, it was the bad cop, worst cop duo was the way we used to play.
Yeah,
that was the game we were running.
Yeah, that was the game we were running. Yeah, like you come in. I thought I was the bad cop. Fuck. All right then. Well, whatever.
Bring it back.
Yeah, we'll just both smash it. But it was like what players would always do is they'd sit down. We'd be having a drink at the end of an event, and they'd be sheepishly like, you and Duncan do bang on me a bit much in that podcast you've got. You do say some outrageous stuff. I mean, I don't look like a horse. What you're talking
about? You know
what?
what? Here's what I'll do. I won't say which player it was. I'll protect their identity, but I have to say their nationality, right, just to make the story work. But one of the best examples of this ever was one time, right, there was a French player who apparently just went up to Semler and was like really upset. Not even because Semler had said anything, but because Semler was like laughing at all the jokes I was making about that guy. And he was like, whatever. It's like, come on, man! I can't stop him making jokes, can I? And plus, it is funny. Like, come on.
But I have had players reach out to me going, "Oh, like you always keep it tasteful. It's all right. It's just banter. I've known you for years, But Duncan, can you have a word with him?" This Nico fucking meme is so out of control now.
We need to reel it back now.
Yeah, we do need to reel it back. Like we've literally just got his own teammates just fucking filleting him 2 at a time while he's sat in.
Now let's find out who's going to be the core captain of this motherfucker.
Like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, this meme has fucking spiraled out of fucking all semblance of reality. So, but anyway.
Right, lads, Adren's got some, so he's in the team.
Right. I did a great segue. Yes. But yeah, we're gonna right. Take a memo, Sam.
Timestamp everything in the last 20 minutes.
Timestamp entire podcast and second part of the memo, Sam. We've got to start dialing back the Nico meme.
All right.
So it's now okay.
So let's show in that picture.
Nico.
Yes.
What, that one with his eyes rolled up in his head? Yeah. Let's show in that picture, please. Right. Now, somebody who I can't even remember what the fucking segue was.
Had a nice day or something. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. It's somebody who likes
Tarek,
Chris Rea. Yeah, I know. I remember it's about. I just couldn't remember.
He's trying to do his fucking Terry Wogan. Somebody
else who likes Chris Rea is Tarek from MIBR. But anyway, he's
been on the fucking road to hell himself, mate.
Yeah,
and he wasn't coming home for Christmas. He was going to fucking no man's land.
Yeah.
So by the way, his fucking Sophie's choice is like, do I join Complexity or not play Pro Counter-Strike? Give me more time. Give me more. Fucking hell! What a bad Sophie's choice is that?
Great, another reference.
I don't know. That's even from the 80s.
Was that like 70s or 80s?
That might be 70s.
An upbeat film for the entire family. A great one.
Yeah. Watch that one. Really good.
Yeah, it's really mega in that. Yeah.
Great ending, uplifting. But yeah, so Tarek, obviously, we now know with the Phelps confirmation, 100% out at MIBR, like that was ever a fucking issue anyway. And we know that he did have an offer from Complexity. Jason Lake was transparent about that and said, he sort of turned us down. We couldn't get the deal over the line. So now Tarek's put a statement out basically saying that he's sitting out until another opportunity arises. And I got to be honest, like I do not understand why teams are not beating down the door to get him. I mean, first of all, the obvious is just go back to Cloud9.
Obviously, yeah.
Like it really, really strange. I'll read you the statement before we get into breaking it down, because he did say a few interesting things. So he said, I knew that joining MIBR was a risk, and unfortunately it didn't pan out. Some difficulties in language and culture, but most importantly, a clash of play styles brought it to an abrupt end. Although it was short-lived, it was an honor to play with the legends. I have no regrets. Everything happens for a reason. You got to remember, Tarek does like his fucking chick lit philosophy. If you've ever seen his Twitter feed, it's always like daily reminder to love yourself. It's like, all right,
because if you don't love yourself, nobody else will. Like, yeah, well, brilliant. Anyway, at least the Chinese food was good.
Except Nico. Anyway, at this point, I'll be sitting out with MIBR.
Hold.
Streaming and working further on my personal game. Timestamp that, Sam. Until another opportunity arises, he added. Thank you to all of my fans who follow me since the beginning, especially thanks to the fans of Brazil for accepting me in open arms. You are all incredible. I guess the big tragedy...
That's what you're saying. Like, we've got to read this back. Takes a breath. Think about that.
That lasted 3 minutes, by the way. 3 minutes.
I know. And he just did it himself. Like, while it's like he responded to his own news he was saying, while saying, definitely don't say anything about Nico in this next segment. Anyway, people who aren't Nico, but they've been a gangbang.
Anyway,
never gonna end, is it?
The real tragedy and all. You're right. Starting now,
right?
Starting now, right. The real tragedy in all of this is. Do you remember that video of Tarek trying to learn Portuguese? His poor peanut brain. It's absolutely. It's a tragedy. Like, he was going all in. He was in fucking bed learning Portuguese, getting tested on it by fucking Fallen. And all for nothing. And now, like you say, he's just out there twisting in the wind, waiting for an opportunity. Now, like I say, the obvious move to me is like just get him back in fucking Cloud9, because currently, as the roster stands, they're having to use the new pickup Zelzis as a coach. Golden has come back.
They basically have to pretend Golden's going to play, and then even though we know he isn't, then they're like, oh, injury means he can't play, so Zelsis stands in, because that's what happens. The coach is the person who had to stand in for the major, but in doing so, you retain a spot for Golden at the next major, so he wouldn't like lose the spot, as far as I can tell, is the logic,
Golden,
right?
Yeah, Golden drops the old eye alive, but here's the thing. Because I'm just tuned out when it comes to Cloud9 as things are. I just remember them in Boston, and then there's just a like blank where the memory should be. But like, couldn't Tarek come back and them still keep the spot?
No, because he had a major since then. He played for... Oh no, you're right. He played for the last major. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. You're right.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. Right. So surely you just get him. He's like, what's going on? Like, you can't take sickly Golden to the event, right? People are saying he didn't he?
Let me think. Wait a minute.
Right.
No, I'm wrong. He was in MIBR by that. He was in MIBR.
Oh, he was in MIBR by that point.
Yes, because Yanko was coaching him. Yes, because it was remember the major was after the player break.
Well, that puts the cosh on that then.
Right, forget all that then.
Yeah, timestamp all of that again, Sam. But the point still remains, like, regardless of this major or not.
The obvious team for him to join is...
Yeah, go back. He can do in-game leadership duty, and now he can do it in Portuguese as well. Don't know why that would ever come in handy, but he can, probably.
Yeah, that works for fucking Fallen.
and yeah, that part 2 is getting deleted. And then, obviously... Golden, he's got long-term health problems. This isn't the solution that anyone's particularly happy with.
I mean, technically, we all have long-term health problems because we will all die one day, but...
It's very deep.
Anyway, I know, I did.
I see you and Tarek read the same magazine.
The one who writes
Cosmo. You're in charge of his Twitter, are you? Daily reminder, we're all going to die.
What happened is...
Live life to the max.
When I was at E-League, Tarek came along and he goes, what are you doing there? And he grabbed my notepad, right? And he didn't know it was my page of all my throwaways of the material that doesn't make the cut. And then he goes, "Oh, this is fucking brilliant. This can I have this?" And he'll go, "Yeah, sure, I'll sell you content in it." He goes, "Okay, can I use that as well? That content thing." I mean, if you're entirely unoriginal, next thing you'll be wanting to just do like your boy Stewie and just go join MIBR and ruin your career as well. He goes, "Now you speak about it." Anyway, you see what I'm doing with that one. So. And at the end, absolutely no Fierce players had any sort of sexual relations with anyone, nor were there any power dynamics involved.
Starting now. Yeah, you know what pisses me off most of all, right? Now that you said it, I hate the fact that future generations are just gonna beat death, and I have to be part of a generation that's gonna have to die.
Start injecting stem cells now, mate. You might make it.
What? I'll just have them lying around, don't I?
Mate,
oh yeah,
in Vegas, there must be around.
Got them stem cells in the back of the cupboard, haven't I? Just cheers, Sam. Would have left
one
them
short
stem
flight
cells
down to South America, mate. You probably get it done for $1,000. Just
then again,
full
to
of
be
stem
fair,
cells.
They will be living in a world where like esports is just like a welcome to the 25th season of the LCS. Like, fucking hell, is this life?
Mate, if I knew I was going to live forever, you think I'd be doing anything in this fucking industry? You mad cunt! I'd be fucking long gone. This is my entire career is sunk cost fallacy at this point. I've been around since the start.
Yeah.
I gotta see where it plays out to. Oh, there's money in it now. Guess I can't leave.
Well, put it this way: the one thing you can't do, let's be real, is leave, and then it does get massive, and then you're just in some bar.
Yeah,
going,
no, I know.
Hey man, I used to be involved in that. And then everyone's just going, "Fuck this loser."
I don't remember this kid.
They call that fucking pulling a D, man, don't they?
Yeah, sure you knew that, Shroud. I bet you did. Bet you never bloody met me, liar.
You know what I mean? It's like
Redhead's in the bar, of course.
I think I can comfortably leave Riot Games right about now. Gets a phone call, doesn't he, from his broker? Bloody hell, Lee! Great news. I've had a rumor that Tencent are buying up all that Riot Games stock. You've still got it, haven't you? You didn't have to give it up when you left or anything.
Why are you not answering? Didn't you hear me? You can sell the stock for millions. Please,
I can't talk right now. I'm
sell the stock.
I'm bloody 1-0 down at Bury away.
Plus, we're live on the radio right now. Sure, not many people are listening, but listen, I've got to go anywhere, and it's a throw-in from Tom. And the young lad from the youth squad coming in, mate. That would be the ultimate iniquity. Your real job is actually...
Thanks for the sub there.
Your real job is casting real-life football that's at a lower level than even the FIFA games you used to cast anymore. You're just doing like fucking the championship or something. Oh, bloody hell. Leeds, I remember them. Didn't even need that stock anyway. I had a big deal on stream. $20 donation from Rafflecopter.
And I won the league.
I don't know.
Yeah, and I've took Doncaster to the promised land. Fucking hell. Oh, God. I don't give a fuck. Like, that will always buckle me. That will always buckle me. It shouldn't. It's probably cruel at this point.
Yeah,
I don't know, but
it is.
whatever. He's like Duncan. Yeah. Massively cruel. And you're doing it on a stream with everyone watching. Massively cruel. Anyway.
Still funny, though.
Yeah, it's just fucking funny, isn't it? Right. So anyway, other than Cloud9, where else could Tarek go? He's too good to be out of a team for too long, right? He's fucking.
His problem is
he should be a prime pickup.
His problem is he is stuck in the no man's land of he is not at the moment a player that NRG and Team Liquid would want because they consider like, well, why do we need him? We've got players as good or better, and we are better as a team. But he is too good for all the other teams that are in NA. So I don't really see where he can win. Like, that's why going back to Cloud9 makes sense in as much as the good thing about Cloud9 is, yeah, the team isn't at a great place, but the org still is. So you can obviously quickly turn that around if you get the right team. So that's the only logical place I can think to go. Unless, I will say this, unfortunately, I think you're not going to see many American players who would want to play in Europe because they don't want to move. They want to stay wherever they live in America. They all have their own lives and family and all the rest of it. But I actually think Tarek's skill level is enough. Like, he could be in a mouse sports or something like that if they wanted him. I don't think that's a ridiculous move if people like that wanted to upgrade a player or make a bold move, you know. Like, I've always told players like that, if you're even open to the move, just think of it as the first 6 months. Like, if it doesn't work out anyway, they're going to get rid of you. So just say, I'll give it 6 months. If you don't like it, then we split ways. If it works, and you double up, you go again, you know. But for me, the guy's too good to be in this spot. Like, it's just bullshit. It's one of those players where it's like the idea they have to miss a major in their career. It's an unfortunate circumstance of where contracts are at, but it does suck for sure.
Hey, well, this is going to blow your fucking mind. You know, you think about Tarek, who's out there, right? And it's like he's sitting out opportunities. What if I told you that Happy is turning down opportunities? Oh, you saw this, did you?
You know the saying, beggars can't be choosers. A mistake. He's broken the meta game of that, hasn't he? He's fucking literally, he's the guy begging on the street. Someone throws him a quid, he goes, £2 only, mate, £2 coins only. He's like...
Apparently, according to Nell, who he did announce that he's going to be closing his website, moving on from esports, but still put a tweet out earlier today, basically saying that LDLC had approached Happy to join them, and he's turned them down not once but twice.
That second one must have just burned that guy from LDLC inside. Like, wait a minute, he said no again. All right, well, that's the end for me. There's no point going on. What good can come of this? Fucking, I'll turn him down twice.
Yeah, it I just don't understand it, because actually, looking at this on paper, right, the lineup that they've got, it looks like they're going to have XMS join the team and Matend join as well. Obviously, I assume it would probably be XMS and Happy accepted. You look at that lineup, is it good? No, but it's probably around about where Happy should be, given, you know, he's been on this downward trajectory, was inarguably the worst thing about Vitality, and was actually a drag factor on their success. And, you know, it's not like LDLC people were just singing their praises recently, right? Before the next set of French moves, everybody was saying, oh, LDLC, people have been sleeping on them. They've got Devaduvek, you know, Logan, Twanu. They've got this great tactical system, blah, blah, blah. This is exactly the sort of lineup where if I was Happy and I still actually gave a fuck, I'd be like, you know what? This is like a low risk for me. Like, because if you join this roster and you're the worst thing about that roster, it's time to hang it up, mate. It is game over at that point. You can't be taken seriously as a competitor.
Thing is, though, this highlights two huge flaws that Happy has as a person, which is, first of all, if something doesn't work, he's the guy who just broods on it, but not in a way where he's like thinking about how to fix it. He just gets annoyed, like, oh, why isn't this working? Oh, why isn't this working? It's like, you got to either just let it go, mate, or fix the problem. Do one or the other. You can't sit and complain. The problem is, so as a result, when it was said that one of the reasons he turned it down is he just wants to take some time and think about his career. So it's like, what are you thinking about? Because while you're thinking, your stock is dropping even more. And when you say that you want to come back to a team in 6 months from now, and everyone goes, so I'm getting now a washed up, out of active duty Happy for 6 months, who already had 2 bad years before that. Like, who the fuck's picking that guy up? And then the other part to him that I have to say is a really bad quality, especially if you want to make your career as an in-game leader, is once he was in Envious and he got to the very top and he had the best players and he had the most success you can have, he was ruined by success, because this guy is incapable of developing talent, of using lesser players. And every in-game leader in history has to do this eventually. Eventually, you're not the in-game leader of the best team. And you have to prove yourself again to either get back to the better team or to bring another team up to that level. That is actually an element of how we judge in-game leaders. It's like, what do you do with the teams where it's not just the best players in the world? And quite frankly, this like run he's been on has been so dreadful of what he's done when he didn't have all the best French players that, like, I don't know how you recover from this, because this last one, obviously, he wasn't even the in-game leader of Vitality. That was just supposed to be about showing he could be a competent player again, and he had his problems. So I don't know what like, unless he's like just done with CS and this is it, I don't know where he thinks are available destinations, because I can't think of almost anywhere now. Like, we would really, like, because here's the problem. When you go to a level lower than this, and you're not going to like that French team. Bear in mind, there's almost no other French teams available even. Now you're talking international scene. Well, I can tell you don't have any spots there because the benefit of the international scene is they get all the talent from the fucking Lithuania and Estonia, the countries that aren't going to have top teams. So you're not getting in those teams either. Those players won't respect you. So to them, they're going to go, why the fuck do I care what you did in 2015, 2019 now? Like, I feel as though this might be the end. And sadly, it's going to be one of those ones where you go out with a whimper. There's no big I retire moment, and
Well, yeah, I'm like you. I cannot think of a team that's out there that he could go to.
Remember, the last team was also his last chance. Like that was like people like MBK. So
yeah, people were saying that.
Yeah, come on, we'll give you one more chance to show. So who's left to play with as well?
I mean, do you think there's a bit where he's turning this LDLC down because actually he realizes it can't really work out for him? I mean, it would have to go. He would have to basically play well and that team be successful. And I guess he just doesn't have the confidence that either of those two things would happen.
Oh,
so it's like by avoiding it, you're better off. You don't.
I also think he thinks it would fail, and as a result, it wouldn't work. Because, like as I said, I think as an in-game leader, even I feel like he just lost his way, and he just hasn't figured out any way out of that, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's sad, dude. Always liked the guy, and yeah, he's squandered his career by just not adapting and turning down the likes of LDLC. I think you're going to regret that 6 months from now.
What tilts me about him as well, Rich, is like, this is the most stupid part. Is, when we were talking on the last episode about Existence doing this international team, and even though Existence definitely can speak very competent English, despite the fact he pretends like, I know speaking English. Like, you definitely don't. Yeah. As I've said, the joke is, like, every time he says that to me, I say, you're speaking right now in fluent English to me about the concept that you can't speak English. But anyway, Happy is someone who was absolutely able to speak with everyone. Yeah, as far as I know, he even had quite a lot of international friends. He is I might have even had like a foreign girlfriend or something. This is a guy who, if he had done it at the right time, was primed to move out of the French scene and go to those other teams. He could have been probably in a Mouse Sports type team at some point if he'd wanted. So I still think that could potentially be a route. He's just waited till the worst moment to do it. He's fucking crashed his whole stock in the French scene, and now he's trying to, if he assumably goes that route, try and do it now when I don't think anyone would want you at this point in time. Likewise, this is another guy where 2 years ago, let's say 2016, I think that was when he still hadn't quite worn off yet. 2016, say I'm a Happy's agent there for whatever bizarre alien world in which he drafts me in as his agent, right?
Oh, yeah, which I'm sure he would
absolutely bad news, Happy. Yeah, I've signed you up to a 10-year deal for Infused. Right, anyway, fuck, what was I thinking doing that? But what I would have said is this. The move for me should have been, he should have been one of the first people who was a European import to an NA team. Yeah. He should have been the guy who went and was the leader of Cloud9 when they had loads of scrimmy talent or something. That was like, these were like options made for someone like him where he could have completely turned his career back around again, and he would be hailed as, by the way, like a fucking heroic figure even. Like he'd be a legend in the NAC. Sadly, he chose not to do that.
Yeah. That was the last story I had queued up. So now we go over to our producer, Sam, with the questions.
We have received none, mate, as always. People just giving money for nothing, mate.
Looks like...
We go back to the chat.
No. What, you want to do one question?
You can take a question, yeah. Why not?
Go on, we can take a question.
Fill in for the questions that don't get asked.
So we'll let the chat do it. Go on. First question.
Duncan,
do you remember that bloody homeless person?
That was me. And you know what? I regret not taking those fries because he became a motherfucking legend in esports. And also, I regret not selling them shares years later.
I mean, this isn't even a question. People seem to just be making statements.
Predictions for the minor tomorrow. We already did that last week.
We did it last week. I will say this.
I
know, no questions. People don't come here for CS anymore, mate.
I know.
They don't. They just come here to listen to me.
Who's winning the major?
Fictitious homeless people.
Great question. Yeah. I'm just going to go ahead and say, guys, there's one team that's won 12 of the last 14 events they've been at or something like that. So let me have a quick stroke on this one. How could it be? Bloody hell. All right, I've got
Um,
one for you. I've got one
yeah,
for
go
you.
on.
Here's
All
one.
right, go on.
Obviously, the minors aren't done, but we have a sense for who might be able to get into the major, etc. How about this? You remember before the major, this is the Boston major was where I did that pick of like, if you have to pick a dark horse, I picked Cloud9, and my reasoning was like, whatever, they have the ability in theory to
Oh,
do
we're doing
it,
dark horses.
why not pick like a real dark horse? Who would you? Because obviously, since the Strauss is the obvious one, there's a lot to pick from.
Right, let me have a look then.
Because the whole point is, right? I mean, I guess in theory, because FaZe and Team could change their rosters, people will say, well, they aren't necessarily FaZe. But like we're saying, you have to move past Na'Vi and FaZe and Team. It has to be a different team than that. It has to be like a real dark horse. But let's see if we can think one up each. Just because then if it comes true again, it's a sick part to
but the minors haven't been done. So
but you know roughly who's there. You know who, and plus, what are the odds that a team from the minors winning the major? Like, it's not that high.
Yeah. Oh well, it definitely isn't.
I mean, there's Mouse Sports, but that's about it. Like, that's probably the only minor team I think could actually. Maybe NRG is like a big push if you want to go really dark horse. They're the only minor teams I think are winning. Come on.
Let's just have a look here. I mean, come on. I'm looking at the current legends. Can it be a current legends team? It can, right?
Yeah, because there's some shit ones in there.
Well, I was gonna say like I'm not gonna expect Hellraisers to do too much. They're not really dark horses though, because like there's an obvious trio of teams, and they're the ones that you would say could probably depose Astralis if everything went the right way.
Yeah, so we've got to get a bit cheekier than that, I reckon.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You can't just say oh, it's Liquid or it's MIBR,
Fnatic,
or FaZe.
maybe Big with Xantares.
Yeah, that's not a terrible one. New lineup
Could be a surprise.
Fnatic one's not that crazy a shout. You know, there's a universe in which shit like that can happen if they get a great tournament going. You know, obviously there's G2 with Shanks in game.
I know. Fucking hell, it's rough, isn't it? It's slim pickings. Go on then. Right, I'll give some. It's not even that bold in the grand things, but I'll say that I think. No, go on. FaZe with Adren will make.
They're going to make what?
The final.
All right.
The final, right?
Yeah.
I think FaZe with Adren could be very good. I think it could be a really good pickup. Here's the thing: if I had to pick like a wild dark horse, so I'm not going to pick, as I said, like Team Liquid, so like those teams, not ridiculous that they win. Sure, they're not the favorite, clearly. If you have to pick a wild one, I think the two most likely are the Swedish teams, is NiP and Fnatic. Like, I could see a universe in which, I know it sounds mad to think that like Get Right's going to win a fucking major in 2019. That sounds ridiculous when you say it, but then again, remember it's a team where Get Right, it doesn't even have to be the best player. In fact, in that team, they've got a pretty nice skill differential. Clearly, they play pretty well in pressure matches. You can get a sick run going, as Cloud9 showed. It's not impossible.
If Fnatic didn't have Exist, I could get on board with that team. But
that's the one killing it for you.
Yeah. That's, you know what I mean? It's just not good. It doesn't work for me that at all.
I will say, put it this way, as much as even though I like some of those teams, it's like the Overwatch League scenario. Even if it succeeded and it, net positive was good for the game, there is a part of me doesn't want Exist or Get Right or for us to ever win another major, because I think it just sends a terrible message for the game that you can sort of like waste your opportunities for years and then still just at the end try and win. So it's not a great sim. But then again, I'd just mindfuck myself and go, no, it was actually Rez injecting life and Lecro, but there's always ways to balance it in there.
Well, okay, and here's another bold protestation, because you were saying that you can't back anybody on the minors. I think NRG come through the Americans minor and they get legend status for the major afterwards.
I think that's a reasonable pick.
So there you go. So FaZe in the final with Adren, and NRG power through and get legendary status for the next major afterwards. There you go.
All right, what about this? I've got one we should do. I've just realised. Right, being as at the last major, Mouse Sports fucking bombed it 0-3. If you go back a couple of years, famously that FaZe Clan team 0-3 when they were like the second best team in the world. Pick the big team who you think's most likely to shit the bed.
Ooh, that's
a good one with all the roster moves, right? Because a lot of them could do it for sure. There's a lot.
You're not gonna like it, but my immediate pick on that list, like of confirmed teams, is G2.
That's pretty likely, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it just is likely, especially when you consider as well. I don't know They got fucking cursed by some fucking gypsy they didn't buy Lucky Heather off or something, and like one of the players will probably get injured and Malek will have to play. You know, it'd be something insane. Like there's another twist or turn with G2 Esports, but I could easily see that lineup going 0-3. Definitely. What about you?
I wonder if there's anyone good can actually do it. That's the thing. Because that's the problem. Come on, G2 isn't good. We all know that. Come on.
All right, okay. Oh, do you think that's a soft pick? You think that's an easy pick for?
Like, here's the thing: it's not like they're a favourite to go 0-3. Like, people would probably have them winning a map or two, you know, and having a chance. Like, they've got the players, obviously. Kenny S, Sharks, he can do best of one win. But like, I was thinking more along the lines of like, do you think like a big dog will fail? Is the one that you would pick to like everything goes wrong? Obviously, this is the hardest to predict of all because you have to, like, for example, that phase one from Pidgeot Krakow. It's still inexplicable to me now. Like, that team was fucking amazing.
Yeah.
They went 0-3. I still don't know how they did that. So, like, if I had to pick a big one,
all right. Well, my next pick then, if G2's easy, my next pick would probably be Fnatic. Cloud9 doesn't count. Completely. Yeah, Cloud9 doesn't count because Cloud9 isn't a team.
Sure.
And Tyloo will steal a game off someone. And Vegas Squadron will probably steal a game off someone. Fnatic, when you start looking at all of the fucking pieces in the jigsaw, that is the team that has the biggest variance in terms of potential. Because if they all fucking click,
sure,
that they can be great. They can go 3-0. But if they don't fucking click, they got 0-3 written all over them. You got an unproven young player in the form of Brollan, you know, playing big tournament. You got Twist, notoriously temperamental. You got JW, the personification of up and down Counter-Strike throughout his career. And the only one you would back to be a rock is fucking Crims. And his back must be sore as fuck. But you think about the year he had in 2018. And then obviously Exist, I've already said that. Exist is going to be the leader. He's going to be the one calling the shots. You're going to see some unbelievable vetoes again, because that's just a given at this point. It's not even a meme. It's just reality. He's going to be vetoing into his opponent's strongest maps in this format. Yeah, fuck it. I might even rescind my G2 pick and go with Fnatic all the way.
I'll give you what I think is the most bold one, because the problem is this, right? When I look at teams like FaZe, MIBR team, look at all had roster moves. So by the way, it would be totally legitimate for them to fail. The problem is they've all seemingly got like a better player into their team. The amount of skilled players makes it so hard to see them like literally shit in the bed. But I tell you what, I actually don't think it's ridiculous to say there's a world in which Na'Vi does it. Because the thing about Na'Vi is, first of all, they're already carried by 2 players. So all you need is one of those guys to have one bad day. That could be it. Secondly, it's a bold pick because obviously they had so many events where they were top 4 in a row. I think they had something like 15 events or something. But they've also had a couple of events the last few months where they shit the bed completely. Like went out of the IEM Chicago super early, obviously bombed the fucking, what was the one that came, ESL New York, they came like last place or something shit. So there's also a universe in which things just go bad for them. I mean,
I'd love it.
Seen them have a great game.
I'd love it. Like, seriously, I'll set up a fucking altar. I'll be fucking cutting my hand and fucking giving sacrifices up to the gods to make that fucking happen. Because think about the world that happens. You know, they go 0-3 at the fucking major. Simple just turns to Zeus and he goes, "Listen, old bitch." And then he just leaves immediately. And then all of a sudden, the dream move of him playing at fucking FaZe is back on. And now we're fucking talking. You know
Obviously,
what I mean?
The only problem there is, what if the dark gods of chaos that you offer it to go, nah, actually, I'm a bit full now. I've had enough blood. And you go, take my fucking blood and get rid of it, will you? Put it in a blood bank or something, you fucking dishonest cunt.
Man, no, it's the fucking thing. I've literally been, I'll admit, 2018 was a rough year for me because obviously I said, like, well, it was like the Alan Hansen moment. You don't win anything with kids. I was like, there's no way this Na'Vi team simply cannot win tournaments.
Do you know the funny thing is, though,
with just 2 good players? Only won a bunch, didn't he?
This is the mad thing, though. What's great is there are 3 examples I can give you there. There's you saying that one about, like, in theory, Na'Vi should never win a tournament with this lineup, no matter how simple players. By the way, did make that statement before Electronic came online, I will point out. So it was literally 1 player carrying 4 people. Yeah. Then the other one is the Alan Hansen one, because obviously Manchester United came along and had an amazing youth squad. I'll go ahead and say, by the way, even Manchester United haven't had another squad like that come through. So if anything, Alan Hansen, they were the exception to Alan Hansen's rule, which it definitely applies. And the third one is there's a famous one in the NBA where Charles Barkley always used to say, you can't win the championship if you're a jump shooting team. And then the Golden State Warriors did it like To be fair, they did it like 10 years later. But again, they did it right. Now, in all three examples, I actually think they're all three examples of where you didn't actually get wrecked. That was the exception that makes the rule correct. Because in this particular case, even with simple and electronic, it's still ridiculous you can win a tournament. Like, remember, HLTV.org is putting all 5 Astralis players into the top 20 players of the year. They're putting 3, I think they've put 3 from Mouse Sports. They're putting at least 3, maybe 4 from Team Liquid. No, must be 3 from Team Liquid. So they're saying that all these teams that Na'Vi had to beat and get past had like multiple best players in the world. Meanwhile, Na'Vi has 2, and then I don't think anyone else was even close to getting in. Like, they were nowhere. So the idea, like, that's one of the famous adages about Counter-Strike is one man can't beat a whole team. It's like, what about 2? Logically, 2 shouldn't be able to. Even that shouldn't work.
Well, I mean, and it's like you said, they were doing it with just 1. Before Electronic was there, Simple could drag you through a series. He was that good.
And he's the ultimate outlier anyway, isn't it? It's like if someone said something like, oh, you're not going to, tell you what, in League of Legends, you're not going to win the World Championship with the same player over a 5-year span. It's like, yeah, well, it happened, but just because this one guy was literally the best player to ever play the fucking game, wasn't it? Like, I guess what, it doesn't apply to him. It's a general rule for everyone. So, no, I agree with you on that one. I think, like, it's easy for people to say it's a gotcha, but actually it doesn't disprove the concept. Like, I think you were right on that one. And
I think I got wrecked.
Remember, he did win that Cologne because Zeus was like 30 frags on that fucking game, wasn't he?
Against Astralis, no less.
And then had the gall to come and tweet at me.
Oh, I know. Mate, it just made me realize, like, this cunt is in Cloud Cuckoo land. Like, he's fucking all the way gone. Like, haha, who is bot now? You look at his numbers. Hasn't dropped even like a
mathematically provable Arabot.
Yeah, he hasn't even dropped like a 25 in fucking.
No, here's the thing. You would think from the way his tweet was that he was flamey in Na'Vi, and it's like, hey guys, stop saying it's 2 guys. You know, I'm all right still. Like, I still have some big games.
And you'd probably concede that point. You go, you have your moments.
But it's like Zeus, mathematically, like. Zeus reminds me, right, of like actually same guy, Charles Barkley, right? There's a famous stat of Charles Barkley that like no one in the history of the NBA had missed more 3-pointers in like the playoffs or something than him. And the reason why it's not actually that bad a record is because the whole point is it's because he was a superstar player and at times he would be hot when he's shooting 3-pointers. So the idea is any normal player who missed even half as many, would you be told by the coach, like, don't do that anymore. You can't take them anymore. You have to sort of be so good you have the green light that you can then miss that many. It's counterintuitive, but you're not actually the worst player at 3-point shooting in that scenario. Well, in the same sense, it's like, it's one thing if you're a player where it's like, oh, you know, I've just had a bad game, haven't I? It's like, no, by the logic of a bad game, almost every game of your career was a bad game. That's like, you literally are mathematically, in terms of sample size, one of the worst players to ever play professional CSGO. And your argument is, why are you just saying I'm a good leader? Sick player too. Yeah, all right, mate. Yeah. Tell you what, small head as well and brilliant tattoos. My problem is I'll go too far, don't I?
I have been trying to explain that to you roughly for about 10 years. Yeah, for about 10. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. You know, is the 10 more.
So I've come to that realization now in 2019. You know what, Rich?
While arguing with an imaginary homeless man.
On occasion, I go too far with these jokes.
Mate, all it took was rock bottom. That's all it took. Yeah.
You have to realize there is an extent to which I do sometimes remind myself of this legendary story of Ron Artest, right? Where right after that Malice in the Palace brawl in 2004, where literally not only were they fighting each other, they were knocking fans out live on TV.
Mate, Malice in the Palace is the shit.
But here's the maddest part to the story is that Steven Jackson, who was on the same team as Ron Artest, said that when they got to the locker room later, Ron Artest turns to him and goes, "You think we'll get in trouble for that?" And he was just looking at him like, and that's kind of like what I'm like when I do some edgy shit. Like, you think that was too much, Rich? Should we take that out? Like,
yeah. It's too late now. We were live, Doug. We were live. Right. Anyway, let's end the show. Let's leave Sam to a fucking lonely night of time stamping, trying to stitch this fucking abomination into like some cohesive broadcast. Right,
it's gonna be like MTV style editing, you know, where it's like a cut like every 5 seconds.
Just some stock footage partway through. This just in, Rivalry will no longer be sponsoring this part of the channel. No, obviously, shout out to the sponsor, rivalry.gg/RLS. Please go there and support the channel by signing up to it. You can qualify for $350, but more importantly than that, it tells them you came from my content, my channel, and then they're more likely to re-up with us and keep Sam in shoes or whatever he spends it on.
Shoes.
I don't know. Probably, right?
Shoes. You can't smoke shoes. I mean,
Yeah, I know.
shoes.
Or
Yeah.
eat 'em.
I've seen Sam try, actually.
I'll have an 8 for the shoes, please.
Yeah, the stinky ones.
And obviously, shout out to our patrons. $100 patrons, Jerky's Minion, Botvic, Kashanath, Detlef Insomniac. Remember, you can ask questions if you're in that bracket. If you want to, feel free to submit them. Then our $50 patrons, Manuel Stockley, Reykjavik on Steam, Sard Sawar, Pete Bidstrup, Cal, TC Owens, Watch Doge, Carv, Roosty, Ditterdornov Christensen, Nostradamus, Marcus Kjumpar, Madsen, Colin Penny, Benekagi Assassin, and William Southern. That was another filler episode of By the Numbers. Hopefully see you around for the No Majors Club. We're going to make it happen. Until then, take care of yourselves. Peace.